Welcome to Turf Talk with Matt
and Casey.
This is episode 23, and we are heading into July of 2023 right now. And so that means round four.
Round four.
And man, this summer has been brutal for our lawns.
It's cruising along, but it has been a gnarly summer already.
Yeah. It's been kind of nice as the temperatures have been, for the most part, cooler than normal, it seems like. But the rain's pretty much stopped. You know, we haven't got nearly enough rain, and your lawns are probably telling you this exact same thing. So let's kind of get into what's on the horizon for round four. What are we seeing? What's on the horizon in terms of temperature and moisture and all those kind of things as we go into the health?
So round four, what you can expect, you're going to see much hotter days. We've been fortunate, like you said, we haven't seen a whole lot of those 90-plus degree days yet. It's been fairly mild, but it has been extremely dry. Most of Indiana is in what's considered a moderate drought. That means we've got below average rainfall. The rain that we are seeing is typically thunderstorm rain, so it comes in quick, heavy bursts. The problem with that is a lot of that moisture doesn't stick around because it comes down so fast and heavy. It doesn't have time to absorb. It just runs off into the sewer drains, and it doesn't do much benefit to the lawn.
So we really need those long, drawn-out, 8-hour-long rains, and we're not seeing those.
We're not seeing those good all-day soaking rains that would really benefit the lawn. The temperatures that we're seeing, we're still seeing 85-degree-plus temperatures, so we are seeing a lot of stress. But the biggest factor right now that we're seeing is not so much temperature as it is drought.
Yeah. So where does that leave us with like soil moisture? Because that's a huge indicator for how the health of your grass is going to be.
Exactly. We like to see a soil moisture content somewhere around 28 to 30%. Anything higher than that, it gets a little soggy to get equipment on. Anything less than that, we start seeing stress. Right now, we're running at 23%, so well below where we need to be. If you do want to keep that lawn nice and green, you really need to break the hose out, start that irrigation system up, be putting plenty of water on the lawn.
So, for instance, let's say my lawn is like brown as can be. How much water is my lawn going to need to get it to be back in green? Or can I even get it green again by the end of the year?
That's a great question. You definitely can get it green by the end of the year. You can get it green before the end of summer, but it's going to take 3 times as much water to get it back to green as it would have to prevent it from going dormant in the first place. So whereas you need 1 inch, 2 inches of irrigation typically to keep it green, you're looking at 3 to 6 inches of irrigation every week just to bring it back out of that dormancy and get it to the point where you can keep it stable.
But then once it's out of dormancy, then I can go back to the 1 to 2 inches.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah, the dog days of summer, they'll be here at some point.
Soon.
You know, July, August, that's typically when they come. But the dog days, they definitely do a lot. You know, there's a couple ways that you can really tell. I mean, your grass is going to tell you that it needs water. I mean, it's going to be starting to turn colors. Some of the color that's in your grass could be from unsharpened mower blades. If your blades are not sharp, they will start ripping the grass, and that rip, the tear on the grass, that will be brown. So that will, you know, make it worse. That rip also helps allow disease and fungus to get into the plant. And the other thing that's showing as brown is the stalks from like bluegrass. When it was in seed, you know, last month, and now it's not in seed anymore. Those stalks that had the seed heads, those are dead, and you see those the brown throughout the yard. Eventually, those things will go away, but you will still have some browning in your lawn. It's very typical, you know, that you have this really high green color in the springtime and it starts to dip. It doesn't matter if you're irrigated or not. Like, your yard is still going to dip some green color throughout the summertime, and then as we get to the fall, it'll go back again. It'll get back to that green part when we start getting more rains and the temperature starts coming down and things like that. But let's kind of get into the fertilizer that we're putting down for round four. I would presume from round 3 to round 4, it's changed a little bit. Kind of tell us that.
It has. So for round 4, what we're putting down is a 2204. It's a little higher nitrogen, but it is a slow release nitrogen. We're putting that down at 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet, which is lower than our round 1, round 2 application of 4 pounds per 1,000. So some of you might notice that difference. That is one of the FAQs that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. The fertilizer that we're putting down is going to help push the grass upwards. So we're going to be promoting that topward growth. We're going to be forcing the grass to grow and kind of heal itself faster than it normally would in these conditions. So we want to see that rapid repair. We want to see that topward growth. We want to push the fungus and any damage that we're obtaining up and to the surface so it can be cut off. And nice healthy grass is going to take its place.
Gotcha. So if I don't water my lawn, is it beneficial for me to get this application?
It is. The reason for that, we are still going to see some natural rainfall. That natural rainfall will activate that fertilizer, get it down into the soil surface. The grass is going to start to uptake it. It's going to store those nutrients, and once the grass has enough moisture to use those nutrients and promote that growth, it's going to utilize that, and it's going to do what it needs to do. It's going to heal much faster than if you didn't have that fertilizer in the first place.
Yeah, so even if you aren't watering right now, it's still very beneficial to get this round, all the rounds, because it's going to help your lawn recover much faster when we do get that water. So every single application is purposeful. It's built, evenly across our serviceable year, and so we know every year that July comes every single year. So we know what to expect. We see this, the heat, the drought. We know a lot of people aren't going to water their lawn. So that's what this specific application is designed for. It's completely different than round 3, and it's completely different than what's going to be happening in round 5 as well.
Correct.
So this is a specific fertilizer for the heat of the year, so that your lawn can recover faster and better when we start getting the optimal temperatures again.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about the weed control. What are we seeing? Are the weeds different from what we saw in the spring? And why does some lawns still have weeds in them?
Sure. So the weeds that we're seeing now, we are still seeing some dandelions, which we saw in the spring, but they're going to be a lot more rare than they were in the spring. They're going to be few and far between. What we're seeing mostly now is spurge, plantain, a lot of thistle growing up in mulch beds and things at the edges of the lawns. We're going to see crabgrass. We're going to see nutsedge. All of those are typical summer weeds. Now, our weed control is going to handle most of those very efficiently. The things that we're going to struggle with right now, wild violets, ground ivy, nutsedge can be a problem, but we do have an application that we can, if nutsedge is a problem, we can treat that. We can mostly eliminate that from the lawn. Now, with nutsedge, as well as I do, it's a recurring weed. It's hard to get rid of. It takes multiple applications, so don't expect it to be gone the first time we come out and spray it, but we will keep working on it. We can get rid of it over time.
And one thing to note is that you have spring weeds, you have summer weeds, you have winter weeds, completely different weeds.
Absolutely.
So the weeds we saw in the spring are not necessarily the weeds we see right now. So if you are seeing weeds in your lawn and you've been with us through the spring, it's because the weeds that we treated in the spring died, and then you have other seeds that germinate when it gets to a certain temperature, when the moisture content gets to a certain area, then those weeds start to grow. So we can't treat those weeds until they're present, and now that they've presented themselves, now we can put an application on them.
Absolutely.
One huge misnomer is that pre-emergent prevents every single weed. That's a complete lie. Pre-emergents do not prevent every weed.
No, they're specifically designed for grassy weeds. To put a finer point on it, we're talking about crabgrass, foxtail, barnyard grass, annual grassy weeds that typically present themselves early summer.
And the reason we do pre-emergent, we do a pre-emergent in round 1, and then we do a post-emergent in round 2, is because the typical biggest culprit in lawn care is crabgrass, and it takes over everything. So a massive part of our program is taking care of crabgrass and making sure that you don't get crabgrass. because it's really unsightly. It takes over big areas and it can kill out your existing turf. And so that's why we put all the pre-emergents in there to prevent that specific weed pretty much.
Yep.
And then the rest of the year, we still have other weeds that we have to treat throughout the season.
Absolutely.
You know, and so that's one thing that we want to make sure that you understand, is that there's a lot of misnomers out there that pre-emergent prevents all the weeds. And that's not true.
I wish that was the
pre-emergent
case.
does that. Yeah, that would be great. So we've talked about the lawn care side. Let's kind of jump into the pest control. Where are we at with pest control? Are we seeing a lot of mosquitoes at this time? You know, where are we at in the pest world?
Sure. So we're on round 4 of mosquito and perimeter pest control. We are in between rounds for flea and tick. So to answer your question, Matt, right now we are seeing mosquitoes. I don't think they're as heavy. I have not noticed them being as heavy right now because we have seen that lack of rain. The mosquitoes need the rain in order to hatch their young. So I think mosquito populations are slightly down right now. That could be area specific. So if you live in an area that's seen more rain, you might be seeing more mosquitoes. However, our treatment can and is effective against most of those mosquitoes, taking care of those and really reducing the population in your little area and keeping you hopefully mosquito free.
Now, just because we treat your lawn, we don't promise to eliminate all
Right.
mosquitoes, right? Because you know, there could be mosquitoes from your neighbors that could come over, but we want to keep that population as low as possible so then you can enjoy your outdoors as much as possible.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I agree. I haven't seen the mosquito pressure as heavy as it has been, especially last year and in the previous times. And I wonder if it's because we had somewhat of a mild winter. It's been kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Typically mosquitoes like it a little warmer. But one fun fact for you is that after heavy rains, you'll typically see much more mosquito activity. And that's because when mosquitoes lay their eggs, you know, we could have had rain in the springtime and mosquitoes came and they laid their eggs in low-lying areas in your yard, and they laid their young in that body of water. And then eventually that body of water dried up over time. And so that larva just sits on your soil surface just waiting for the next rain.
Yep.
And the next rain comes and poof, there could be thousands, hundreds of thousands of mosquitoes that grow right after rains. And typically after heavy rains, you will notice the next couple days a massive influx of population for that. So that's just one fun fact. And perimeter pest control, what are we seeing there?
So on perimeter pest control, the most active insect that you're going to see right now is spiders and ants. Of course, all the regulars are there. You're going to see centipedes and millipedes and excuse me, all the little creepy crawlies. Spiders and ants are going to be the most prevalent. Our perimeter pest control application, 3 feet up, 3 feet out from the foundation of the home, all the way around. We're going to knock down all the cobwebs, so we're going to get rid of those spider nests, any egg sacs that are attached to the house in the little crevices and corners where the spiders like to hide. We're going to knock those down for you, and our barrier is going to help keep all of those creepy crawlies out of the home.
Gotcha. Man, I just had a really good question about perimeter pest control, but yes, I have it. So when we started perimeter pest control, we did 4 applications.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we used to get a lot of callbacks.
We did see a high number of callbacks, calls in between. I've got ants or I've got bugs inside the home. Since we have gone to 6 applications, those numbers have dropped off to almost nil.
Yeah. We don't get hardly any calls anymore once we increase the amount of rounds that we did. And we realized that, you know, the product, even though it says that, hey, it's got a shelf life of so many days, it starts dropping off pretty drastically. And so we needed to start reapplying sooner. Yeah. And so once we did that, we gave a much better product, and we had very few callbacks.
Absolutely.
Since then. So I think that's pretty much everything for lawn care. We talked about pest control. Before we get into FAQs, is there anything other lawn specific that we're seeing out there that you want to cover?
So you might be noticing some changes in your lawn, like you said. The rate of growth is going to slow down a lot, so your mowing is going to be less frequent. My suggestion, raise that mower deck up as high as it'll go if you're using a push mower. If you've got a riding mower, about 4 inches at the minimum. Personally, I like to leave my lawn about 6 inches in between mowings. My neighbors hate it because I stand up heads and tails above the rest of the people on the block, but my lawn also looks better. And I do almost nothing to my lawn these days. So you're going to notice that. One of the things that you want to look for in your lawn, if you are watering your lawn or you do irrigate on hot days, if you go out on your lawn and you step on the grass and it doesn't just spring right back up, it doesn't have that elasticity, that means your grass is dehydrated. It's heat stressed, just like you and I dry out on a hot day. We get tired, we get wore down. You don't feel like springing up off the couch at the end of the day. The grass is feeling the same way. If you notice that on the lawn, make sure, break the hose out, give it a drink. That's one of the first indicators that you're going to see that your lawn is dehydrating, and then it's going to start going into dormancy.
Yeah.
So before you get to that browning, break the hose out, give the lawn a drink. You'll be amazed at how fast that lawn will spring back. Likewise, when you mow, it's a great idea. Just give the lawn a little drink, nice cool down. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. You're just going to help alleviate some of that stress that mower has created just by mowing. So.
And one thing that I did this past weekend was I put the sprinkler out on my lawn. And we give everybody those rain gauges around 3. So everybody should have a rain gauge that they got. Should be placed somewhere in the front of your property in a flower bed or something like that. And I took that rain gauge and I put it out where I was watering. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to see how long it would take me to get a certain amount of rainfall. And so it was out there for 45 minutes and I had only gotten a 1/4 inch of rain. So sometimes we get calls, hey, how long should I water my lawn? We can't really tell you how long it should take in an area. It depends on how much water you're actually getting. And from my house to Casey's house to your house, the water pressure that we get out of our hose, the length that we have that hose laid out is totally different.
Types of sprinklers.
There's so many different variables. Just take that cup and put it out there.
Yep.
And once that thing hits an inch, turn it off or move it to a new area. Dump the cup out, put it back in the ground, and when it gets back to an inch, move it to another area. Do this on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, sometime that you're going to be home. And if you can only do it once a week, that's fine. It's better than nothing. So your lawn will definitely thank you for even a little bit of water that it gets, as opposed to nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah, a little water goes a long way with a lawn.
So we're going to get into a couple FAQs that we get. Each time of the year we get different FAQs. There's just these questions that we hear on a constant basis. And keep calling us. We're happy to answer questions for you or email us, ask your technician. But we just want to clear up a couple things that we have been seeing. One question is, it doesn't seem that we're getting as much granular fertilizer. It looks different. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So like we talked about earlier, Matt, every round is designed to meet the needs of the lawn at that particular time of the year. So that means our fertilizers are going to change throughout the year. We don't use the same fertilizer for every round. Just like in round 1, round 2, we use a product that's coated with prodiamine. It's a low nitrogen product, so we can put it down at heavier rates to accommodate the need for the prodiamine. It has to be put down at 4 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So you're going to see a much heavier coverage during round 1s and 2. Round 3, 4, 5, you're going to see that we put down the fertilizer at 3 pounds per 1,000. Now, some of the fertilizer prills are bright white, but most of that concoction are going to be earth tone granules, so they're not going to stand out like the white or the yellow prills.
Yeah.
So what you're going to see is we're putting down 1 pound less per 1,000 of a higher potency fertilizer, but you're only going to see a portion of that fertilizer because a lot of it's going to blend in with your soil surface. It's not going to stand out, so it's going to look like there's much less.
Yeah, so you're right. You are getting a little bit less, but it's a total different round. It's a total different product. As you can see behind us, this is what we used for round 3 in the red bags. Mm-hmm. And this on the other side of Casey, it says Spring Valley. It's in a bluish bag. That's what we're using for round 4. So it's totally different products. And part of the confusion, I think, is that people see fertilizers at Home Depot and Lowe's, and it's the Scott's 4-step, and all the bags look the same, and all the fertilizers are somewhat the same. You know, it's a very generalized thing for the whole country. Maybe they change it from East Coast to West Coast and Midwest, but that's it. You know, with us, with a professional lawn service, we get to change, you know, based on what we're seeing in that round. You know, so we buy all this product, you know, a couple weeks ahead of time, so we know exactly what's happening at that time of the year, and it could change from year to year to year. We may not use this exact same product next year in round 4.
Right.
There may be a different need in the soil that we're seeing very locally here. So that's the difference of, you know, what we do and what we offer as a professional lawn service. The last FAQ that we have is regarding scheduling, and I think it's interesting because it's, I feel like we get these questions a little bit more right now than, I don't think we got these many you know, requests in the springtime, and maybe it's because it's summer and people are traveling. You know, maybe that's what it is. But the question is, are we able to accommodate specific scheduling needs? You know, I call in, say, hey, I'm out of town. I need to reschedule for next week. I'll be back in town next week. And the unfortunate truth is sometimes we can't. There's nothing we can do about it. We're a small company. Logistically, we just can't come back out in next week because we're going to be in a new round. So Casey also does our, not only is our operations manager, he also does all the routing and scheduling. So I'm going to let Casey actually answer this question a little bit more because he lives this every day, and it's extremely, extremely hard to schedule this.
So I think you're right, Matt. I think this time of year we're seeing a lot more of these calls coming in, a lot more need to try and lock down a specific date and time. And the reason for that, kids are off school, families are traveling for summer vacations. So there is that request that comes in, hey, you know, can you give me an idea of when, or can you lock down a time for me? And the sad truth of it is, it's very difficult for us to do that for a number of reasons. Number one, we are very small in terms of the broad spectrum of things. We're running 2 technicians right now. They have to cover something like 200 square miles of territory between the 2 of them. I don't know the exact number, but it's very large. So what that means is I have to route them in different portions of the city day by day. It makes it very difficult for me to schedule a stop in Greenwood when I've got 20 or so stops scheduled in Zionsville. It's just not feasible.
It's an hour drive
right.
Each way.
It's just not feasible for me to do that. It puts too much stress on the technicians, and it really creates an opportunity for us to disappoint a customer when we can't make it down there due to weather or traffic or, you know, something else. So while we will do our best to work with you and accommodate, keep in mind a few things. Number one, we don't need you to be there when we make the applications. Our technicians are going to always knock on your door. They're always going to be there and ready to answer any questions that you might have. But as long as they have access to the front yard and the backyard, there's no pets or children on the lawn, our technicians can go in, they can take care of your lawn like the experts that they are, and make sure that you get a quality treatment. Now that treatment, whether you're there to water or not, is not going to go bad. It's not going to hurt the lawn. It's going to sit there and wait for that irrigation. So watering is not a huge need, like it is in round 1, 2, and 3, where the products really need to be watered in. So if you're on vacation, if you can't be around, we're more than happy to try to work with you. But if we can't accommodate that, we'll tell you, and we'll make sure that you're taken care of 100%.
Yeah. And like Casey said, you know, you never have to be home for us to do an application. And we understand that, hey, maybe your back gate is locked or something like that. A lot of people give us the gate codes or whatnot to be able to get into the backyard. So we have a software that we would just put the code in the software. And so the technician would see that when they arrive to do your job. But other than that, it's very secure. And let's see, so we can't necessarily accommodate them. Man, there was another question or another thing that I was going off. I'm gonna have to edit this out. Man, you had mentioned something in scheduling that I wanted to piggyback on. Specific scheduling needs. Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
And so another thing, another reason why you don't necessarily have to have a specific scheduling time is if you did have a question, maybe you wanted to be home to ask your technician a specific question, you could always send in pictures or take a quick video and email it in to Casey. So you'll get as you know, at the very end of every single application, you get a form that says everything that we did. If you just reply to that with some pictures, if you weren't able to be there during the application, or a video of, hey, this area is struggling, or all that, send that in and we'll get you an answer right away. If we need to schedule a time, to come out and look at it, we have the ability to come out and meet you and take a look at your lawn, when you get back. Casey does that on a weekly basis anyways, meet with customers, look at lawns, work with the technicians. So he's out in the field, and so if you have a specific question and we had to get you done this week, but you don't come back till next week, just give us a call and we'll coordinate a time where he's able to stop out at your property at your convenience, within reason, obviously, but we're able to get those questions answered. So that's it for Turf Talk, episode 23, I believe it was. I think that's what I said, 23. And we'll see you on the lawn.